Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Christian Hanna Horror here today. And if you've been following my channel for maybe the past 5 or 6 months or so, you've seen that I've finally gotten my feet a little bit wet with Italian horror movies, specifically the giallo type, and certain directors, Lucio, Dario, and I wanted to make a list of 5 that I have really taken a love for. And the purpose of this video is 2 things. If you're new to the genre, this specific genre like me, then I want this video to serve as 5 that I love. And if maybe you haven't seen these or dove into these yet, go for it. And if you're a very experienced person, your job for me is to throw some my way based off of the ones I show that I will probably like and want to check out in the future as well. So 2 purposes. I'm kind of giving homework to the veterans out there. But I wanted to show 5 that I really have fallen in love with, and no particular order except number 1. So let's get started. Yeah, the first one I want to show you guys is a phenomena. I have definitely fallen in love with phenomena. When I was getting into Dario, I couldn't find the one that just grabbed me by the heart and soul, and I thought it was Tenebrae until I saw this one, and this one is amazing to me, especially the final act of the movie. And I'll keep that spoiler free because I don't want it to be spoiled, because the thing about these kinds of movies, giallos specifically, is it's a whodunit, and you want to find out who the killer is and what's going on, who's doing what. And this movie is like a ticking time bomb, and the last act is just the massive explosion that just never seems to stop. And I got a lot of enjoyment out of this. This movie also has Donald Pleasence in it, which I know is a big deal for a lot of horror fans, specifically me. I was very happy to see him in this movie, and I loved it so much. A lot of replay value on Phenomena, I think. A lot of replay value. So that's one I definitely think is a good movie to jump into if you're the red, white, and blue horror fan and you're wanting to check out some of the work from Dario. You know, because Suspiria is one that's broken the glass ceiling, so to speak, and it's a massive hit with horror fans. But I'm telling you to go check out Phenomena, because that was one that grabbed me more than any of them, and I think it could happen for a couple other horror fans too. The other movie I want to show you guys is actually directed by Lamberto Bava, produced by Dario, but a lot of people seem to associate Dario with this movie, probably because his name's at the top of this. That's Demons 2. Now, the reason I'm showing Demons 2 is 2 reasons. Number 1, of course, I love Demons, but I wanted to show 2 to you guys because if you haven't checked these movies out yet, the Demons films, I definitely think 2 is worth your time watching, because I loved it just as much as the first movie. And also, if you've watched 1 but maybe heard different things about part 2, maybe you heard it wasn't great, or maybe you heard it wasn't for you, I think Demons 2 is great. I think it's a little bit of a lighter shade of gray. It gets a little bit full moon feature-ish towards the end. But if you like the look of the first movie and you like the sound of it, then I think you'll like Demons 2. It's a little bit more open atmosphered as opposed to the first one, which is the theater style. Part 2 kind of moves around a little bit, and I actually liked that about Part 2 because I didn't want it to repeat the way Part 1 did with the theater style. I was hoping Demons 2 didn't just try to steal and rip off everything, including the style, that claustrophobic place and setting like the first one. So Demons 2 delivered for me, and I just wanted to have a good time with Demons 2, and I did. So I think that Demons 2 is awesome. So if you haven't checked out Part 2 because of hesitation, go for it. But if you haven't seen both of them, what I'm saying is watch 1 and 2, because I like them a lot. This next movie is not for the faint of heart, but I do think it's an important horror movie. I do think it's an important Italian horror movie. I do think it's an important giallo, because this is a slasher movie dumped on its head and gutted wide open. The New York Ripper. Now, The New York Ripper was one of the most intense, uncomfortable slasher horror movies I've ever seen. And it's donned by the great Lucio Fulci. Now, this movie was extremely, like I said, uncomfortable, but it was an experience. It was a very tense, horrific movie. And I love the opening shot of Lucio Fulci's The New York Ripper. What I noticed with Lucio is it seems like this guy always has his mind set on the tone of the film he wants to make when he makes it. And I've read a lot about Lucio, and this is a guy that is always up against the gun with time and money. And some people are able to squeeze the diamond out of the rough, and some people crack under that pressure. I don't think Lucio was ever the guy to crack unless the tables were just completely stacked against him. Now, a movie like The New York Ripper, to me, it was him saying, okay, if I'm gonna make a film in this genre, I'm gonna push the envelope like no one's seen it pushed. And that's the feeling I get when I watch The New York Ripper. You know, there's movies like Maniac, which we all know and love. I think The New York Ripper is almost on par with the intensity and the I need to take a shower after watching this movie kind of feeling. In some ways, I think New York even surpasses it. But The New York Ripper, like I said, it's not going to be for everybody, but I do think it's a movie you need to experience, especially if you're a horror fan that really wants to get deep into those movies that just really push you mentally and really make you kind of just tighten up on the couch. And, you know, that's one of these movies. So I have to put it on this list because I do think it's an important movie, The New York Ripper. Let's stick with Lucio for this next one because this is a movie that was put over to me by my friend Lorne, who is a professor in this genre. And I love this movie. I can feel the fog creeping into the room as I think about this movie. And the great thing about this movie was atmosphere. You know, Italian horror movies have some of the best atmosphere I've felt. And I've never felt that more prominently displayed than a movie like House by the Cemetery, another Lucio Fulci hit. Now, House by the Cemetery had a different story than expected with some of these types of Italian horror movies. The whodunit, what's going on. House by the Cemetery was truly a gothic, mysterious experience. Now, the cool thing about the music for House by the Cemetery was it sounded like a greatest hits compilation, where it sounded like it was the same performer for everything, but it sounded like it was through different eras of this performer's career. The music cues sounded different, but they all fit and mood with a capital MOOD. I got so much mood out of House by the Cemetery, one of the most enjoyable films I've ever seen. I've rewatched this movie 4 times since I've gotten this set, and every time I get the same feeling of turning off all the lights, the movie starts, and I can feel the fog rolling into the room, which is a really intense thing with a movie, especially to do that on multiple watches. Because once the cat's out of the bag, it's kind of just like, well, this movie's comfortable, I enjoy the sounds and look of it, but House by the Cemetery doesn't do that to me. It keeps getting creepy every time. And the final act is literally a nightmare I've had. And that's pretty cool. So House by the Cemetery is truly a film I cannot put over enough. For people that are wanting to get into the Italian horror world, this is one I really loved. My number one is going to be a no-brainer for a lot of people, but I have to talk about this movie because I really haven't yet. And I just want to say how much I love it. And Mr. Lucio is at it again with, in my opinion, one of the greatest movies in the horror genre, Zombie. Now, I am a big Return of the Living Dead fan. It'll always be my number one favorite horror movie. Now, when it comes to zombie movies, Return of the Living Dead is obviously up there as well, but this one keeps pushing people out of the way on that list. This movie is intense. Not only, and everybody's talked about this, but seriously, not only did they have a guy as a zombie fighting a shark, but it looks incredibly awesome in the movie. It's one thing to have it like shot, but to get what they got and to make it look as good as they did, holy cannoli. I mean, this movie is an absolute experience. If you're not even a really big physical media collector, but you pick up movies every now and again, getting this new 4K restoration Lucio Fulci Zombie is a must. This film, I can put it on at any time. I'll put this movie over John Carpenter flicks to watch, over Wes Craven movies, Sean Cunningham, David Cronenberg. I will pick this movie out of a lot of the categories and a lot of the movies and those other great directors that I love to watch. I love this movie that much. I can't imagine going back to a life before having seen Zombie as a horror fan. I've been missing out on so much. So guys, those are 5 Italian horror movies that I absolutely love since getting into the Italian horror genre. As I've said, for the veterans out there that are watching this, I come not as a historian, I come not as a professional or what have it in this field. I am a new guy in this field, and I just wanted to share 5 that I loved for people like me that are just starting to open the door into that genre. As for the veterans, based on those 5 that I showed, let me know 5 more that I should check out, because I'm just waiting for that next Italian horror film for me to find that gets inside my bones and creeps me out. Thank you guys for watching this video. This is Christian Hanna Horror. Be sure to give it a like if you enjoyed it. Be sure to sub to the channel. It only takes a second. Thank you to all my patrons. I love you. We'll see you guys next time.